Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Connections. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Laura Auer. Very nice to meet you, Laura.
Hi, Natasha. Thanks for having me.
And we got to thank the wonderful John Reason for getting us in contact.
Yeah, he's great. Hi, John.
So, Laura, we're here. Actually, this is kind of a Connections, kind of a new releases because you do have this beautiful new album, Spring, available now. Um, but I always like to go back to the beginning and figure out how people got started in music. So, can you remember, was it like something you were in music classes or you discovered on your own when you were at home?
Like the very beginning. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I was actually a late bloomer when it came to my voice. I was a string player, played the
Oh,
viola
okay.
my whole life until right up before I went to college. I I was an athlete and they needed people to sing the national anthem and I volunteered and I think that's kind of how I would like be on the field, run up, sing the national anthem, they blow the whistle, I'd book it back down onto the field and I would play. And it was like, oh, she can sing. So it was like really, really late into the game. I just remember all of my classmates, they were all ready for college and figuring out what they wanted to do. And I was completely lost. And I was like, Mom, I think I want voice lessons. That's kind of how that started. So literally, I took a few months of voice lessons, and then my teacher prepared me for music school
Wow.
in like less than, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 months. It was crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my story, how I started. I mean, I was that kid who showed up to music school auditions in jeans, and everybody else was completely dressed up. They were, they were prepared with black binders under their arms. I always tell this story because I looked around and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm in jeans, and I was, I was, you know, I remember like getting a lot of crap for it. Like all of the teachers were like, did anyone prepare you? Like, what are you doing in jeans? And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, I know a few songs and here I am. And yeah, but it worked out. I got in. So that was really cool.
No, I love that. First of all, because you said you volunteered for the national anthem, which is not an easy thing, even for pros. So kudos for doing that. And then I think
Yeah,
it's good though, because we do hear all these stories of people starting quite early. And
no,
while that's really good, I also think when you're
yeah.
older, you're kind of ready for the material. So you don't have the bad habits formed. You're kind of ready to be an open book.
Yeah, I was not singing at all, like in front of anyone my whole life until I was like 17, pretty
That's
much.
awesome. So when you went into college, what kind of repertoire were you doing then?
So I was a, Bachelor of Music, so, vocal performance repertoire, studying opera right away, boom, like
Okay.
went into it. Just, I was an orchestra player. I was a classical musician since I could remember, but not vocally. And so I actually, if anyone knows this about music, like the viola is not in the same, it's not written in the same clef as
Yes.
vocal music. So my whole intro to college was like, wait, I got to figure out how to
Oh, that's
music
true.
again. And yeah, I was really starting over, and people were patient with me, and they helped me out a lot. But yeah, we were doing a lot of Handel, a lot of music that I had to learn later in life to connect better back with. So it's
Mm.
very interesting. Some of the pieces that I'm doing now were from that very first year of my classical vocal training, because now I can appreciate it. I think back then I was just I was just like in over my head, just first 6 months of trying to figure out how to sing and learn to read music in this completely new clef and adjust to college. And yeah, I went to a big school. So yeah, that was my just diving, right in. No preparation hardly at all. So yeah.
So you just got thrown into the wonderful world of opera. Were you doing
Yeah.
scenes in different like young
Yeah.
artist programs or?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, all of that. All of it. Yeah. And I had to figure all of that out. And I felt like a fish out of water for a really long time. And I think I always have. I don't think that that feeling ever left me. I've always been kind of doing my own thing underneath the water. Like even when I was, really, fully committed to my programs, there was this rebellious spirit in me. I
Mm,
don't think that I ever let go of. And I was trying to sit with it, trying to figure out where it's coming from, understand it. Why can't I just, you know, I don't know. There was always just this angst or this I want to do my own thing, but why can't I wanted to break the rules all the time. And yeah, anyway, I don't know. This is kind of like always been there with me. So I did a lot of full operas. So we did a lot of Benjamin Britten, um, Strauss, and I really enjoyed that part of my life, but it didn't last very long because I went right into graduating, and then I joined a rock band, and here I am later. That's my story. Like everybody else went on to pursue opera and Broadway, and I have wonderful, fellow classmates that are extremely successful and on Broadway right now, and on in all the opera stages. And I joined a rock band, and that took me on a completely different path. So yeah.
I completely feel you though, because when I figured like going into the bachelor's degree, I was like, I don't really fit, but maybe I want to go this world. And then I remember my master's, one of the auditions or, meetings I did with the teacher, I was kind of arguing about crossover and like talking about how great crossover was. It's like clue right there. Maybe this is your direction. But so tell us, what was the rock band and how did that happen?
Oh, well, I started becoming like a professional musician in terms of like just gigging all the time. So I needed to make money. So I was just learning jazz and rock and I was in party bands. I was just doing whatever would pay the bills. And more than once, I found incredible musicians to collaborate with on Craigslist in
Oh,
all the
nice.
cities that I was with. People are like, they never believed me, but I answered some ads a couple times and met best friends that I'm still friends with today. And that's how my rock band started. I was a big Doors fan, and we started kind of like a Doorsy, um, like soul jazz band kind of, it was rock, and it was like an indie rock band and with female vocals. But here I was like right out of college, completely only like, and I think a lot of classical musicians will understand this, but I did not know how to sing without sheet music.
Mm,
Can you even imagine? Like I mean, here I am, just like, you know what? Let's just go for it. We got very lucky. We got signed to a small indie label, so we were doing it. We were touring. We were fully original music. It was really cool. But I was like, can I just like somehow transpose the songs that I'm writing onto sheet music so I can read it in front of me, because I don't know how to sing without some sort of structure. So that was like the whole, I guess I'm going into that because I thought that that was extremely important for me in my musical evolution and training, to unlearn and
mm,
to just kind of like, here I was, uh, just coming out of that entire world very structured, and then like there was no music. There was like, and my drummer would be like, Laura, sing, just sing. And I was like, what do I sing? There's no lyrics. I need to figure it out. And that was a very, very new, uncomfortable feeling that I started to sit with. And a lot of singers will say that they relate to when that happened to them in their life
mm-hmm.
at that point, to be able to improvise, to learn to just sing what comes out of the mouth and figure out who you are. And that was a really big discovery period for me. And I'm so grateful that that happened, because that set me on a very, very clear path of being a songwriter, learning, that I think I took the right path in
Hmm.
terms of honoring that, I guess, rebellious spirit that I had in me to do something unique and original, because I had to learn what my voice wanted to do,
Yeah.
you know, without being told, okay, this is what the composer wants, do it. Like, this is really,
Yeah,
uh,
I think it's very different because you in classical, like again, you have these very strict Fox, you have different things, and you kind of know the sound that you're supposed to have. But when you're just
yes,
kind of set loose, you're like, what
like,
sound am I?
exactly. How do I sing? How do I make this fit with the sound of the other musicians in the room? How do I express myself artistically with this feeling that I'm having right now? And how do I how do I formulate my thoughts? And it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. And that really, really, like I said, it changed my life because it's what made me become an original music artist,
Mm. And the
So
other thing we talked about a little bit off camera was a lot of recording that you got involved in. So you mentioned this band here,
yeah.
but you've also done some conceptual albums. And I think I also read in your bio that you had a song that almost made the Mulan soundtrack. Um, so tell us a little bit about some of those other recording projects you were involved in, because that's another good way to learn if that's what you want to do, is really be that kind of artist, you know?
Yeah. So after the rock band, I went on my own and I released my first original album. I went by a different name at the time, and then I learned to write songs, and I worked with a producer that I still work with today. Shout out to Tim Sonnefeld. He's a big person in my life who has helped me a lot. And I decided I wanted to move to Los Angeles and really give it a go. So I just when I landed here, I made it a point with myself. I was like, I'm going to work with everyone who will answer my call.
Mm.
And I met so many producers and songwriters, and we just worked and worked and worked. And I really learned, you know, how the ecosystem works here. And that's how I got some opportunities to work. I wrote some songs for film and TV, and got into some circles like that. And uh, lo and behold, one day I just happened to run into some very powerful people that really enjoyed my music, and that kind of that was a 2-year waiting period to see how that would turn out. But the director of the Mulan, they wanted me to. They found this particular song that I wrote, and they asked me to rewrite my lyrics to better fit Mulan's story, and that was the absolute coolest experience. I was like, wait, what? You like this song, but you want me to just yeah, it was so cool. And so Tim and I reworked my whole song for that project, and it looked like it was going to make it until the very, very last second. They hired someone else, but that's okay. It was a really big honor to go through that whole process of trying to fit her. Those are just the songwriting years, and I wrote, in as many rooms as I could, with as many people as I could, and some of them worked out, some of them didn't, and that was a really great experience that I had my hopes up for 2 years for that, but that's okay. That song is still there, and it will find its place, I hope. So, yeah.
But it's so interesting because there are so many of these near experiences. I was reading Haley Westenra's biography, and it was like she was almost in Phantom. She was almost, so there's all these opportunities, they're continually coming. Uh,
Constantly, and and people don't talk about those because we know all the big success stories of what they did, but every single thing that worked out, there's a million things that didn't work out. So
yeah.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
And did I read you also had a number one in Brazil?
Yeah.
So tell me that backstory.
Yeah. So again, I worked with a lot of producers, and I got hooked up with a Brazilian producer. He's great. His name is Ray Bracosa, and he's still going. Like he's a big producer down there, and he's in Sao Paulo, and he loved some of my original music. So I was just writing for yeah, I was a writing machine for like several years there. I had a huge catalog and I didn't know where to put it all because I actually wanted to mention this as an artist, as a writer, and I think we'll probably touch on this a little bit later, but I had to figure out like if it doesn't matter if I wrote it or if somebody else writes it, right? Like as an artist, as a vocalist, you know your repertoire, right? It just speaks to you. There's a common thread through every song that you choose to invite into your repertoire. And so
Mm,
as a writer, you're writing songs regardless of whether you're going to sing them or not. And so there was so many songs that I even came up with that came from my brain, but I was like, I'm not the singer for this song
yeah.
or somebody else. Yeah. So I was writing for all kinds of different genres, all kinds of different styles and voices in my head. And so, yeah, there was actually I did a lot with him. So that's how that worked out. Like I just started sending him some of my back catalog, and he would just produce it like a dance track, which was interesting because it's like the farthest thing from what I do. Like I've pretty much done a lot of genres, but never dance music, you know? But yeah, he would remix them, and one of our songs went to #1. That was so cool. It's, I think, still going.
That's
So,
awesome. So yeah,
yeah.
but what was that? What was the original genre, if you don't mind me asking? Like when you first came up with that song, what were you thinking? Was it more pop, country?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, they were mostly just like standard pop songs, you
Okay.
know. Some of them ballads. Like I wrote a lot of ballads, and he would just speed them up, you know. And all of a sudden, you're like, "Whoa, this is you could dance to this." Okay, cool. Yeah. So that music is out there under my former name, which is Laura Promiscuo. So yeah.
So now, you know, you like you mentioned, you had a couple different experiences. You've been in the world of opera, you've been a songwriter, you've been on
Yeah.
producing rock material, right? So
Yeah.
it
Everything.
seems like, you know, I feel like we always kind of come home to our roots as artists, right?
How funny that you say that. Yes, I know. Here I
So
am.
tell us about Spring now, because well, let's start with your new name because you actually rebranded yourself. You've kind of,
Yeah.
what was that process where you decided like, okay, now where I am in life, I want to go back and I want to re-embrace those materials, which you said maybe at the time you didn't really resonate with, but now suddenly they
Yes.
mean something.
Yes, absolutely. So before the pandemic, I was working on a world music project, and that was another just like um, and I really did like think about what my true center is and
Mm,
where I'm where I need to. I felt a little. I felt lost. You know, I felt like, okay, I've done this, I've done that, I've done it all. Now, what does my voice want? Because at the end of the day, I've learned from even in my string orchestra days, like I was always a singer I was meant to be a singer. If I wasn't, then it was coming, you know. I just know that I just need to listen to my voice and what it wants. And I I just sat in silence almost for the whole pandemic. I would
mm,
say 3/4 of the pandemic. And I was just trying to understand, you know, why I was where I was in my life, and everybody else. I mean, I know everybody was reevaluating, I would
yeah.
say, reevaluating. And for me, that was just sit still, just listen, reflect, figure out why you know, why audiences aren't resonating with what I have put out thus far in the world, or, you know, whatever, or why they have, or what worked, what didn't, like, and I just was like, okay, I prayed a lot, and I didn't really know where, I usually have always seen my future, but I couldn't see my future.
Mm.
And I didn't, and I think a lot of people can, relate to that. And I swear to you, I can't make this up. I heard a voice one day, I was meditating and I was quiet. And when I say I was silent for 2 years, I did not sing, I did not write, I did not think about anything. I just sat kind of still, which is such a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
those 2 years for everyone just like flew by, and you're like, oh my God, I'm 2 years older, what's going on? Or a year and a half, whatever. And in the silence of my mind, one day, a voice came to me and it said, become who you've always been.
Mm.
I literally cannot make this up. I mean, I'm not wise enough to come up with that. Right? That came from some other place.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I've always been a student of music. I've always been a classical musician at my heart. Let's go back to the beginning. So I opened up my music books and I sought out a vocal coach, and I would say this album is that manifested about 6 months later, about 8 months later. That's where I'm at, because it opened up all of all of the voice that was there from the beginning, but I wasn't utilizing. It was like
Mm.
I was like walking around with one leg for the last 10 years or something. Like, I felt like I had all of this in me that I forgot about. And I forgot how much this beautiful music, I mean, some of the music that I have to be honest with my audience, like, I will say, I did not know of a lot of the very big popular pieces out there, because it had been a long time since I had studied. I had forgotten about a lot of the romantic literature out there that I just instantly connected with. I am studying with a wonderful woman who was she just opened me up. Like, my third eye was like, boom, like all of my chakras. I just was like, where have I been for so many years? Why haven't I been singing some of this stuff? And I even went back to the songs that I didn't really resonate with in the beginning, and I'm re-singing them, and I have such a deeper appreciation for it. And I thought, oh my God, like, I have this in me. It was like, I'm in my ancestors are Italian.
Mhm.
And so when I sing Italian opera, something just clicks. Like, I didn't even study the language, but it comes natural to me. And my teacher was like, you need to be doing this. This is
Mm.
this, And so I was like, yes, I agree. But then that rebellious, like, something is, but there's a but. I have to understand that I did not take that path. I did not spend the last, X amount of years studying opera.
Mhm.
I am coming to this with a completely different perspective and a completely different vocal, palette, I would say. So I sat some more and I reflected some more, and I thought, if people want a traditional soprano, there are, God, billions of amazing,
Yeah.
amazing sopranos to listen to if that's what people want. But I knew that my path would be or my purpose would be to bring maybe something different.
Mm.
And so I am singing a lot of the traditional repertoire again. But that's how that kind of all came about. I just went back to the beginning. I opened my books up again, but everything was different this time. Everything. It was like all of my experiences, the rock band, the singer-songwriter years, even the Brazilian music that I was working on, the world music project, the writing for movies and film, and just going through the ups and downs of being an artist for so long. I have a something different in my voice that I think uh, it just hits differently, you know. And so I hear the music a little bit differently. I was hearing different arrangements, I
Mm.
was hearing different instrumentation, and I thought, God, you know, this is really really cool. This should be, I should do this, you know. And so I thought, okay, um, you know, what could possibly keep me as committed as I can this year to just get as much music out there as possible. And I thought, okay, I'm going to um, try to record an album for every season, which means a full recording schedule that never ends. And we can't, I was like laughing with my producer. I was like, you can't release a summer album in winter, so you gotta keep it up. And so this is a crazy schedule that I have taken on, but I'm loving every minute of it. And yeah, that's how I've arrived today. That voice in my head that just said, go back to the beginning. And I realized there is no, as much as you want to run from your roots, you can't. It's a
Mm.
part of you. It's who you are. And it really, really resonates with me today. So
And I think it's better than, there can be some things that seem a bit formulaic, or I don't know how to say the exact word for it, but it's kind of like, oh, someone decided to do this cool idea, but it's not necessarily authentic to the person. It's a cool idea. You know what I mean? It's like when you
absolutely.
kind of get there organically, it's
Oh,
different.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when I hear a piece, and like as I mentioned before, you know, when vocalists are choosing the repertoire, there is a common thread that is
Yeah.
authentic to their vocals, their personality, what stories they want to tell, but also uh, for a non traditional interpreter of the music, there's also an artistic piece of
Mm-hmm.
like, wait, and if you got to go with your gut, like some of the pieces I hear completely, I don't want to touch. I want to do them exactly as
Yep.
the composer has suggested, and I won't mess with it. And others, I'm like, oh, but I hear a cello, and I hear a guitar, and I hear, you know. So for example, Caro Nome, you know, I heard it much lower. Then I know it's a coloratura, right? So people will be like, you can't do that. But I heard it lower. I just did. I heard this part of my voice like, caro no me que il mio cor. And it's not opera. That's not opera. But I was so inspired, and I heard it with a classical guitar and a cello, and that's it. And so there was nothing I could have done to stop myself from doing it that way. No, it's just the way it is. You know. So
So tell us a little bit about some of the other tracks. So on it, you also have, I really liked So This Is Love.
oh, thank you.
Um, always a beautiful piece, but sometimes I feel like I just forget about it. And then I
Yeah,
heard
I
your
know.
version. I was like, yes, this is it.
Yeah. So that one I have been singing forever. And then I discovered, and I hope, you know, I never asked him how to pronounce his name, so I hope I'm going to get this right, but Leiki Ueda from Japan. And he has amazing arrangements, classical arrangements of Disney, of Lord of the Rings, of all my favorite songs. And I just fell in love with his YouTube channel, and I reached out to him, and he answered, and here we are. That's how that happened. So this arrangement was his arrangement originally. I just sang to it.
And so I think another thing in classical crossover, we tend to think a bit of these big voices. I think that's the most popular. It's not the only way for it to be classical crossover. We tend to think these kind of bigger voices, and maybe they're adding some beats or something to it to make it a little bit more, or they're doing a pop cover, but it's still in the very big operatic voice. But what you've done,
Uh-huh.
like you mentioned, it's kind of scaled back. It's kind of, the vocals are maybe a bit more breathy. It's a
Yes,
little, it's a
yes.
little bit kind of turning that idea on its head, right?
I want to make sure it's on purpose.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
It is very, very difficult to sing Caro Nome or any of those songs with breathiness. My
yeah.
God, it's extremely
It's a
hard.
choice. It's a
It's a
choice.
choice.
Yeah.
So I actually noticed that, I mean, our genre is so cool. It's small, but it's growing. It is growing. I know it is. And a lot of the voices, you're right, are huge operatic voices, typically covering popular music
Hmm.
but I thought, well, I'm a pop singer with classical roots. So I'm covering classical music, but in a pop style, which is a little bit the opposite of what I think the genre has seen, mostly. Yeah.
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 But I think it's great though, because everyone, again, that's what makes this genre have the ability to grow. Because otherwise, I think it would stagnate a little bit if it was always one kind of thing, like, let's make a pop song Italian. That could work for some songs, and it does. Like
Yeah.
Catherine Jenkins, I Will Always Love You in Italian. I love it.
Oh, right. That's right.
Sounded
Yeah.
so beautiful. I don't
Yeah.
think that works for every single piece, or whatever the idea is. Let's bring dance
Oh,
beats to
absolutely.
this.
No.
It
Yeah.
keeps working, but not all the time. So I think, like, we need to keep bringing in different ideas.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to be a formula, and people are going to go, "Oh yeah, Pias are great, Amazing
Yeah.
Grace, yeah," which are
Yeah.
great. I don't want to. I know we say that sometimes. It makes it sound like we don't love these pieces. I love
No,
Nella
no, no, we
Fantasia,
do. We do. Yeah. Yeah.
but it there keeps need we need new infusions of different sounds. Otherwise it's gonna become way too formulaic.
Well, and also, there's only so much repertoire that can be done over and over and over again. So there's a lot of repetitive songs, that we all want to sing. Um, so yes, so to speak to some of the other ones on there, I really wanted to do a Roger and Hammerstein. That was like
Oh yes.
can't do this, can't do spring without Roger and Hammerstein. So originally, I will say, we did Sound of Music. That was going to be on there. We went through the entire recording process. Everything was mixed and mastered. And I was sitting there going, something's not right. Something's not right. This doesn't fit. And so I threw it out and I found a different piece. And I don't know why it came to me so late in the process. But I was such a diva. I held up the whole project. I was like, guys, no, hold on. We got to go back to the drawing board for the last song on the record. We absolutely need, it might as well be spring. I couldn't believe I was about to do a spring record without that song on it. My God. And it was just so perfect. And it happened to be a song that I had been singing for a really long time. And I know that all the greats have covered it. Sinatra, Nina Simone, Ella Fitzgerald, like everybody was, Sarah Vaughan, all the jazz singers did it, but it was very jazzy. And I was like, but there's some common thread again that fits with the rest of the record, even the classical stuff. So we just kind of went back. I actually recorded that a cappella in my closet with no music to it. And
Oh
I
wow.
prayed to God that I sang in tune. I think I did, I guess it worked out.
Yeah, I think it did.
Um, and I just sang it a cappella with no beat, no click track, no music. And I gave those raw vocals to my guy who orchestrates the song, and he made that
Oh,
piece.
that is awesome.
He just threw orchestra behind it, and it kind of tied it all in together with the rest of the album. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah. So for example, that particular song, I would not probably say is classical crossover, but for some reason it fit with the record. I don't know. So yeah, I think it was because of the orchestra. So yeah, so I also love this genre. I also want to see, a bit more diversity, and I really want to see it grow. Yeah,
And
so
I mean, the potential is really limitless, which is one of the reasons I love it, again, because
Yeah.
really the concept, it's such a simple concept, somehow mixing classical with some elements of a popular thing. And
Yeah.
it can be done a million different ways. And I think
Yeah.
we'll still see that exploration. Like for me, I love that you did that. It might as well be spring because that's kind of my period, kind of vintage soul.
Totally, totally. That's great. But you know, you're right though. I mean, I think a lot of opera singers will say that it's really hard to sing pop. Once you go full opera and you're completely classically trained, it's extremely hard technique wise to let that all go enough. And I think the only way I can do it is because I removed myself from the classical world for so long, and I was singing complete pop music for a really long time. And even then, like I had a lot of when I first started doing it, people would say, well, your T's are very strong, for example, like, let it go, it's just as an example. And it's like, yeah, that's when it doesn't work, because you really need to have this like intuitive knowledge of what is, I mean, what popular music is it's what's attractive, what's easy to listen to, what just flows, and so when you're really classically trained, you got to throw it all out the window. You really do. And it's like, I don't know. I've gone back and forth. I studied as hard as I could. I became, as as close to an opera singer as I could, and then I threw it all out the window. And then here I am, post-pandemic, relearning everything again, and just going back and forth. It's really hard, and especially with addiction, because when I'm studying a piece, I study it in the original key. I actually wanted to mention that, regardless, of what my intentions are for the song, I always study it as, uh, as anyone would, and as a classical singer. So, my addiction is there. So then I have to kind of like peel it back when I'm in the studio to make it fit.
Mm.
That's an interesting process. So on their next one, I'm doing Glück, das mir, oh goodness, Marietta's lead. Yes. And God, everyone's going to kill me for that. Glück, das mir verblieb. Thank you. And the traditional operatic diction, German diction. I couldn't really do too much with that one. I had to go full. I'm not touching that one. It is what it is. That's a Renee Fleming favorite. So things like that, I didn't hear. I heard exactly as is. There's, and that's so interesting. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, like, there are pieces that I hear. I'm like, wait, that's a clear pop verse, bridge, and hook as a pop songwriter. And I'm like, how this guy back in the day was on point with what would be really, really cool today. And I'm looking at the structure and I'm like, oh my God. And then it repeats verse 2, bridge, hook. Yeah. But it's obviously not. But anyway, so there are pieces that I feel that are classical, that in and as of themselves, Song to the Moon is another one going to be on the summer one. I'm listening to, I'm like, that's a pop song. That's a pop song in my mind because of the structure and the format. So I didn't want to mess with it. I just was like, that belongs as is. Yeah.
But again, I like that you're saying that, because I think that's the point, is that we're not saying the one type is better than the other, but it's being
Oh,
really honest with your choices. And again, everyone's going to interpret it differently, but I think
yes,
like
of
if you
course.
believe in that interpretation, it
Yeah,
just it makes a difference. It really does.
of course. You have to believe in what you're doing. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
another thing you've done, so you added a couple other classical tracks. So we typically hear a lot of O mio Babbino Caro, a lot of Nessun Dorma, which of course is wonderful. But you've done Quantum and Vo, which is a big song for sopranos. I don't know why it's not done more in crossover, honestly. And Je veux vivre.
I know that was tough. Yeah.
What was that one like, making your own?
Yeah. Yeah, so again, this whole project is already planned out. So I'm looking at the entire repertoire list, which some of the songs, I mean, nobody knows the other ones that are in my mind yet, but I'm looking at everything. You will hear very obscure pieces that would not typically be done in a classical crossover way. But I like that. I found some of the classical hits, and I was like, that sounds like it will fit. And then others like Poulenc will be on there, some really interesting choices that people would be like, okay, classical crossover Poulenc, I don't understand, but yeah, so that one, I just thought that was such a fun and flirty song. And so I don't know, there's something about classical crossover that is just purely romantic.
Mm.
And I think that's again like just something that kind of ties it all together for me, is the romance. Not necessarily the drama from opera or the or some of the heavier pieces, but yeah, you're right, that's not really Je vais vivre is an extremely popular soprano piece, but not done in a classical crossover way. But I just heard it with a guitar, and that one was quite a challenge. Yeah.
Well, so you
Did I answer
mentioned,
your question? I'm sorry.
no, you did.
Okay. Okay.
So we have, you mentioned spring and that it's going to be for each season. So have you already recorded summer and you're working on fall right now? Okay.
No. I'm recording. I just finished, hopefully, summer last night. I'm
Okay.
working on summer right now. Yeah. But yeah, pretty much just in a few weeks, I'm gonna start with autumn, because
Okay.
that's how it goes. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, as I mentioned, there will be some, like, you'll see, like, there are classical crossover pieces that I could not escape. I had to do them. They just made sense. I mean, some of them have been done many times before, but again, hopefully with a new voice, with a new interpretation, you'll find something completely different about it. And then others, I don't know, they spoke to me, and people might say that's extremely unusual, but I think, again, I wanted to mention Renee Fleming because she was a huge inspiration to me, because her repertoire is so vast and so diverse. She does opera, she does art song, she does jazz, she really goes to the ends of the earth to find unique pieces. And some of those really, really hit me. And so
Would you say that she's kind of, because I feel like we find these core artists, we kind of follow their path a little bit in your head, and you kind of see like maybe they're the same voice type or something, and you kind of just follow it. So would you say she's one of those artists for you that just really is, yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Especially, and this is interesting, years back, way before I had the idea for this project or to come back to my roots, I read her book, The Inner Voice.
Yes,
And
amazing book.
did you read it?
Yes.
Okay, so that hit me, like really, really resonated with me. And I think she also had quite an interesting journey of figuring out, okay, this is what people want from me, but this is what my voice also wants.
Mm-hmm.
So she does what she wants to. She does what people want, but she also does what she wants,
Yeah.
So I really, really, really loved her book.
No, I thought it was so incredible and very honest in a lot of places. I think
Yes.
some opera biographies I've read, it's kind of like, they had this amazing voice and things just happened, and that's great. So maybe that's their story. But I think
Yeah.
she was like honest, even, like with her tongue, and she was like, soprano, and I didn't necessarily have my high notes at the beginning, and I was like, thank you. Yes, this is what
Yes.
we want to know, is these moments. And then she was honest about the moments in her career, with what the effect it took on her marriage. I just think it's an excellent read. Everyone should get out there and
I
read it.
agree. And I really was so grateful to her being honest in that book, because that's what we want to know. We want to go, okay, I've had a lot of things not work out. Is that like normal? Am I just, should I keep going? Should I? Yes, you absolutely should. because every single one of them will probably, if they wrote a book like Renee, they would have that in there,
Yeah.
but she was brave and she really, really put it out there. And I was, yeah, I loved that. So yeah, so she is a huge, huge inspiration to me. And I love a lot of her repertoire. I love singing a lot of her repertoire. I'll spill the beans a little bit. For summer, there's some Renee on there. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So everyone go out, stream Spring now, and summer will be out. Is it probably like August that you're aiming for with summer?
Probably, we're gonna drip it a little bit, so, couple,
Singles here
couple
and there.
weeks apart, yeah, yeah, yeah. But the whole album will definitely be out by August, absolutely, yeah, for sure. For sure, for sure. And we have a beautiful feature with the wonderful John Reason on there, so that'll be really exciting, yeah.
We'll definitely look out for that. Thank you for coming on and sharing about your own journey, how you came to Spring. We'll have to have you back again for new releases when you have your next album ready. Um, so thank you so much, Laura.
Thanks, Natasha.